At my dad's birthday dinner, he pointed his fork at me and said, "Your $7,000 monthly income now goes toward your brother's mortgage. That's the family decision." My brother smirked like it was already signed. I just whispered, "Noted." I stood up and walked out. That night, I shut down every payment they lived on. By morning, their utilities failed, their cards declined, and the group chat exploded in panic. My name is Charles. I am 34 years old, and if there is one thing I have learned about being the dependable child, it is this. People stop seeing you as a person. They see you as a solution, a safety net, a wallet that never closes. I grew up in a house where my older brother Jeremy was a star. He played varsity football. He dated the homecoming queen. He got into a decent college on a partial scholarship that my parents topped up without hesitation. I was the kid who fixed the router, tutored my sister through algebra, and picked up extra shifts at the campus library to cover my own textbooks. Nobody cheered when I graduated summa cum laude. Jeremy had just gotten engaged, and that was the event of the year. My graduation dinner was at a chain restaurant. Jeremy's engagement party was at the country club. By the time I turned 25, I had built a career in tech consulting. I was good at it, better than good. I worked for myself, managed enterprise clients, and scaled my income quietly. My family never asked what I did for work. They assumed I made decent money, maybe $50,000 or $60,000 a year. They had no idea I was pulling in over $300,000 annually. And by my 30th birthday, I had crossed into 7 figures with contract bonuses and equity stakes. I never corrected them. I just kept working, kept saving, and kept my head down. I let them believe whatever made them comfortable. When Jeremy bought his first house 6 years ago, my parents threw a party. They called everyone. They posted pictures. They talked about how proud they were. I remember standing in the kitchen that day holding a beer I did not want. While my mother hugged Jeremy and said he was proof that hard work pays off, I smiled. I always smiled. I stood there in my clearance rack shirt while Jeremy wore designer jeans and a watch I knew cost more than my monthly rent. The contrast was not lost on me. It never was. What they did not know was that Jeremy's down payment came from me. He had called me 3 months earlier, panicked. His credit score was in the low 600s. His fiancée had student debt. The bank wanted 20% down and he only had 12. He asked if I could help just this once. He would pay me back. He promised. He said I would be saving his future. He made it sound urgent, desperate. I wired him $48,000. He never mentioned it again. Not at the closing. Not at the party. Not ever. It was like the money had materialized from thin air. After that, it became a pattern. My mother needed help with property taxes. My father's truck broke down and the repair bill was $6,200. My sister Anna wanted to go to grad school but could not get enough loans. Every time they called me, every time I helped, and every time they acted like it was temporary, like I was just the backup plan, the emergency fund, the person you call when the real options run out. By the time I hit 33, I was funding their entire lives. My parents' mortgage, Jeremy's car payments, Anna's student loans, the utilities for both households, car insurance for 3 vehicles, my mother's country club membership, which she loved to mention at brunch with her friends, even the annual family vacation to Myrtle Beach, which I never attended because someone had to work. Someone had to stay behind and make sure the money kept flowing. I paid for all of it through automated transfers, quiet wire payments, and credit cards they did not know I owned. I set it up so seamlessly that they stopped thinking about where the money came from. It just appeared like I was some kind of financial vending machine that never required maintenance or gratitude. And I let them think I struggled. I drove a 6-year-old sedan. I rented a modest apartment downtown. I dressed in plain clothes and never flaunted anything. I wanted to see if they would ever ask, if they would ever wonder, if they would ever say thank you, if they would ever look at me and see a person instead of a transaction. They never did. 6 years passed, $263,000 later. Still nothing. My father turned 60 in late September. My mother planned a dinner at his favorite Italian place downtown. She texted me 2 weeks in advance with the date and time. No ask, no request, just an expectation that I would show up. She did not ask if I was free. She did not ask if I wanted to come. She just told me when to be there. I almost did not go, but I knew that skipping it would trigger calls, guilt trips, and accusations that I was selfish. So, I went. The private dining room smelled like garlic bread and red wine. Candles flickered on the table. Soft music played in the background. My parents sat at the head of the table. Jeremy and his wife Patricia were to their right. Anna and her boyfriend occupied the left. I was seated at the far end near the bread basket and the extra napkins. The seating arrangement said everything. I was included but not important, present but not valued. Dinner started normally. My father talked about his plans for retirement. My mother bragged about the cruise they were planning for next spring. Jeremy mentioned a promotion at work, though I knew his company had frozen raises 6 months ago. Anna talked about her thesis. I sat quietly eating pasta and nodding at appropriate intervals. I tried to enjoy the food. I tried to pretend this was normal. I tried to convince myself that maybe tonight would be different. Then my father stood up. He tapped his glass with a fork, the way people do when they want attention. The sound cut through the conversation. Everyone went quiet. He smiled that wide, confident smile he always wore when he thought he was being generous, when he thought he was solving problems, when he thought he was being a good father. He looked directly at me. Then he pointed his fork in my direction like he was marking a target, like he was identifying something that needed to be dealt with. He said, "Charles, I want to talk about something important. Your mother and I have been thinking. Jeremy is doing well, but his mortgage is still a strain. You are single. You do not have kids. You make decent money. So, here is the family decision. Starting next month, your $5,000 monthly income goes toward Jeremy's mortgage. That way, he can focus on building his family without stress. It is the right thing to do." The room went still. I stared at my father. He stared back, waiting for me to agree, waiting for me to nod and say yes like I always did, like a trained dog responding to a command. Jeremy smirked. It was not subtle. It was the kind of smirk that said he had already won, that this conversation was just a formality, that my agreement was assumed, expected, inevitable. My mother added, "It is what family does, Charles. You have always been so dependable. This is just you being you." Patricia smiled. Anna looked uncomfortable but said nothing. My father waited. His fork still pointed at me like an accusation. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder, something final, something that had been building for years and finally reached its breaking point. It was like a dam breaking, like ice shattering. I set my fork down. I looked at my father. I looked at Jeremy. I looked at my mother, who was smiling like she had just solved a problem, like she had just tied up a loose end. I whispered, "Noted." Then I stood up. I pushed my chair back slowly. The legs scraped against the floor. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the seat. I did not look at anyone. I did not explain. I did not argue. I just walked toward the door. My mother called after me. She said, "Charles, where are you going? We are not done yet. We have not even had dessert." I stopped at the doorway. I turned back just enough to see their faces, just enough to let them see mine. I said, "Yes, we are." Then I left. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded louder than it should have. I walked through the restaurant, past the other diners, past the hostess stand, out into the cold night air. My car was 3 blocks away. I walked the entire distance in silence. My breath came out in clouds. My hands shook. My mind was clear. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of the engine and the sound of my own breathing. I kept replaying the moment in my head. The fork pointed at me. Jeremy's smirk. My mother's casual cruelty dressed up as generosity. My father's absolute certainty that I would comply, that I would smile and nod and continue being their solution. Your $5,000 monthly income. They actually believed I made $5,000 a month. They had spent 6 years taking over $200,000 from me annually. And they thought I was living on $60,000 a year. They thought I was struggling. They thought I was scraping by. And they still demanded more. They still thought I had something to give. They still thought I owed them. I parked in my building's garage and sat in the car for 20 minutes. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from clarity. From the sudden, overwhelming realization that I had been living in a lie I built myself. I had created this situation. I had enabled it. I had funded it. And I was the only one who could end it. I had spent years trying to prove I was valuable, trying to earn their respect, trying to be seen. And I finally understood the truth. They did not see me. They saw a resource, a bank account with no limits and no voice. A person-shaped checkbook that never ran out of funds. I thought about my childhood, about watching Jeremy get the new sneakers while I wore hand-me-downs, about my parents taking out a second mortgage to pay for his wedding while I paid my own way through grad school, about Anna calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning when her car broke down, knowing I would come, knowing I would pay, knowing I would never say no. I thought about the last 6 years, about the spreadsheets I kept tracking every payment, about the automatic transfers I set up so they never had to ask twice. About the nights I worked late to cover their emergencies while they posted vacation photos on social media. While they lived lives I funded but was never invited to enjoy. I went upstairs. I sat at my desk. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dark room. I pulled up the master document I had been keeping since the first time Jeremy asked for help. It was a detailed ledger. Every payment, every transfer, every bill I had covered, 6 years of data, $263,000. That was the total. That was the price of being the dependable one. And they thought I made $5,000 a month. The math did not even make sense. How did they think I was funding all of this on $60,000 a year? Did they think I was in debt? Did they think I was struggling? Did they think at all? I did not cry. I did not rage. I did not call anyone. I just sat there staring at the numbers, feeling the weight of every ignored thank you and every taken for granted sacrifice. Feeling the years of invisibility pressing down on me like a physical thing. By midnight, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And for the first time in years, I felt calm. I felt focused. I felt ready. I woke up the next morning with a strange calm. The kind of calm that comes after you stop hoping things will change and start accepting that you have to change them yourself. The kind of calm that comes from finally making a decision you should have made years ago. I made coffee strong black. I sat down at my desk. I opened my banking apps, my credit card portals, my automated payment systems. I had built an entire infrastructure to support them. An invisible scaffolding that held up their lives. It was time to dismantle it piece by piece, payment by payment. First, I canceled the automatic mortgage payment that went to my parents' lender every month. $1,800 gone. I scheduled the cancellation to take effect immediately. No grace period, no warning. The system asked me to confirm 3 times. I clicked yes each time without hesitation. Next, I pulled the recurring transfer that covered Jeremy's car payment, $650 a month, deleted. The system asked me to confirm. I clicked yes. I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret. Just clarity. I moved to utilities. I had set up my credit card to autopay the electric, gas, water, and internet for both my parents' house and Jeremy's place. I called each company. I removed my payment method. I requested paper bills be sent to the account holders. The customer service representatives asked if I was sure. I said yes. I said it clearly and firmly. One representative tried to talk me out of it. I repeated myself. She processed the request. Then I tackled insurance, 3 vehicles, 2 home policies, 1 umbrella liability plan. I had been paying $1,400 a month across all of them. I contacted the broker. I revoked my authorization. I requested immediate policy updates listing the actual owners as payers. The broker warned me this would cause lapses. I said I understood. The broker asked if there was a problem. I said no, just a change in financial responsibility. Anna's student loan payments ran through an account I controlled. I called the loan Sarah. I removed my bank linkage. I updated the contact information to her email and phone number. The system tried to confirm my identity 3 times. I passed every security check. The representative asked if I wanted to schedule a final payment before the change took effect. I said no. The country club membership my mother loved, the one she used for tennis lessons and weekend brunches with her friends, the one she mentioned constantly to anyone who would listen. I called the club. I informed them I was no longer sponsoring the membership. I requested the account be transferred entirely to my parents' name and billing information. They asked for a reason. I said it was personal. They asked if I wanted to continue through the end of the quarter. I said no. Effective immediately. I even canceled the streaming services. The subscriptions they used without asking. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify Premium, all tied to my credit card, all deleted. It was petty. I knew it. I did not care. It took 4 hours. 4 hours to undo 6 years of invisible support. 4 hours to remove myself from the machinery of their lives. 4 hours to reclaim my financial independence. 4 hours to become invisible in a way they would actually notice. I saved everything. Confirmation emails, cancellation numbers, recorded call logs, screenshots of every change. I created a folder on my desktop labeled Family Accountability. I backed it up to 3 separate cloud drives. I wanted proof. I wanted documentation. I wanted evidence that I had done this deliberately, carefully, and completely. Then I waited. I knew the panic would come. I just did not know how fast it would arrive. The first call came 36 hours later. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. She said, "Charles, the electric company called. They said our payment did not go through. Can you check on that? It is probably just a mistake with the bank." I deleted the voicemail. I did not even finish listening to it. The second call came 6 hours after that. Jeremy, also voicemail. "Hey man, my car insurance sent a notice. They said the payment failed. What is going on? Call me back when you get this." I deleted that one too. His voice had that edge of annoyance, like I had inconvenienced him, like this was my mistake to fix. By day 3, the calls multiplied. My father left 4 voicemails. Anna sent 12 texts. Jeremy called twice more, this time sounding less casual and more panicked. My mother called from 3 different numbers. They were coordinating. They were strategizing. They were realizing something was wrong. The texts from Anna were the hardest to ignore. She said, "Charles, are you okay? Mom says you're not answering. Please just let me know you are safe." I almost replied. Almost. But I knew that any response would be seen as an opening, a weakness, a way back in. Then my mother showed up at my apartment. I opened the door. She stood there with her arms crossed, her face tight with frustration. She was wearing her tennis outfit. She had come straight from the club or tried to. I wondered if they had turned her away at the gate when her membership did not scan. She said, "We need to talk." I stepped aside. She walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She did not sit down. She just stood in the middle of my living room, looking at me like I was a misbehaving child, like I had forgotten to do my chores. She said, "What is going on with the payments?" The mortgage bounced. The electric company sent a shut-off notice. Jeremy got a letter from his lender. "Are you having money problems? Is that why you left dinner early?" I looked at her. I kept my voice calm, steady, empty of emotion. I said, "No, I am not having money problems." She frowned. "Then why did everything stop?" I said, "Because I stopped paying." She blinked. "What?" I repeated it slower this time. "I stopped paying for your lives." Her face shifted from confusion to anger. The transformation was instant. She said, "You cannot just do that. We depend on you. You know that." I nodded. "I know that is the problem." She stepped closer. She said, "Your father made a reasonable request. You are being childish. You are being selfish. This is not how adults behave." I smiled. It was not a kind smile. I said, "Dad pointed a fork at me and declared that my income belongs to Jeremy. He did not ask. He announced. He decided my money was his to distribute." And Jeremy smirked like it was already done, like I was already his employee. She waved her hand dismissively. "You are overreacting. You always overreact. You always make everything about you." I said, "You think I make $5,000 a month?" She paused. "You do?" I shook my head. "No. I make 30 times that. $350,000 a year. And for 6 years, I have been paying for everything. Your mortgage, Jeremy's car, Anna's loans, your insurance, your country club, even the vacation you are planning for next spring. I have given you over $250,000. And not once did any of you say thank you. Not once did any of you ask if I could afford it. Not once did any of you see me as anything other than a bank." Her mouth opened, then closed. She stared at me like I had just spoken a foreign language. Like I had said something impossible. I continued. "You want to treat me like a bank? Fine. But banks charge interest. And they stop lending when the borrower does not pay back. And they definitely stop lending when the borrower shows up at their birthday dinner and demands more." She recovered quickly. She always did. She said, "Wow, so this is about money. You want us to pay you back? Is that what this tantrum is?" I said, "No, I want you to stop taking me for granted. But since that is not possible, I am removing myself from the equation." She turned toward the door. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. Before she left, she looked back and said, "Your father is going to hear about this, and you are going to regret it. You are going to regret throwing away your family." I said, "Good." The door slammed. The sound echoed in my apartment for a long time after she left. I stood there listening to the silence. It felt different now. Cleaner. Lighter. After my mother left, I knew the next phase was coming. They would escalate. They would guilt. They would gaslight. They would try every angle they could think of to get me back in line. I needed to be ready. I needed to be armed with proof, with evidence, with facts they could not deny. I spent the next 2 days building my case. I printed every bank statement, every transfer confirmation, every payment receipt. I organized them by category: mortgage, utilities, insurance, loans, memberships, miscellaneous. I used colored tabs to separate each section. I wanted it to be clear. I wanted it to be undeniable. I created a spreadsheet with dates, amounts, and descriptions. I color-coded it by family member. Red for my parents, blue for Jeremy, green for Anna, yellow for shared expenses. I added a column for cumulative totals. I added a column for interest calculations at standard bank rates. I added a column showing how much they would have owed me if I had charged them even a modest fee for managing their finances. The total came to $263,412. With interest, it would have been over $320,000, with management fees closer to $350,000. I printed the spreadsheet. I printed the backup transaction logs. I printed screenshots of text messages where they asked for help. Messages like, "Can you cover the electric this month? And need help with car payment? We'll pay you back Friday." Followed by radio silence. I printed emails where I confirmed payments. I even printed my tax returns showing my actual income. I highlighted the gross income lines in yellow marker. I wanted them to see the number. I wanted them to understand how wrong they had been, how badly they had misjudged me. I put it all in a large red folder. The folder was 2 in thick. 6 years of financial support documented in excruciating detail. 6 years of being taken for granted, organized by date and category. Then I drafted an email. I did not send it yet. I just wrote it and saved it as a draft. It was short, professional, final. It said, "For 6 years, I have quietly funded this family." Attached is the full accounting. I have stopped all payments as of this week. Going forward, you are responsible for your own finances. I will not be responding to calls, texts, or visits requesting money. This decision is final. Do not contact me again. I attached the spreadsheet. I attached scans of key receipts. I attached a PDF of my last 2 years of tax returns with my income highlighted in yellow. I proofread it 3 times. I made sure every word was clear, final, and unemotional. I saved the draft. I did not send it yet. I wanted them to come to me first. I wanted them to make the next move. I wanted to see how far they would go before I showed them the evidence. I wanted to know if they would apologize, if they would acknowledge what they had done, if they would see me. My father arrived on day 8. I saw him through the peephole. He was alone. He looked tired. His shoulders were slumped. His face was tight. He had dark circles under his eyes. He knocked 3 times, firm and deliberate. The knock of a man who expected to be let in. I opened the door. He said, "We need to talk." I said, "We do not." He pushed past me. He walked into my apartment like he owned it, like he had the right. He turned and faced me. His voice was low, controlled. The voice he used when he was angry, but trying to stay calm. The voice that used to make me nervous as a kid. He said, "Your mother told me what you said. I do not know what game you are playing, but it stops now. You do not get to hold this family hostage. You do not get to manipulate us like this." I closed the door. I leaned against it. I said, "I am not holding anyone hostage. I am just done being one." She said, "You have responsibilities. You have obligations. Family is not something you just walk away from." I said, "No, I have choices. And I am choosing to stop funding people who do not respect me. People who pointed forks at me and demanded my income." He stepped closer. His face was red. He said, "You are being selfish. You are being ungrateful after everything we did for you." I laughed. It was sharp. It was bitter. It surprised even me. I said, "Selfish? Ungrateful? I gave you $250,000. I paid your mortgage for 6 years. I covered Jeremy's life so he could play successful. I put Anna through grad school. I did all of that while you treated me like I was disposable. While you pointed forks at me and announced my money belonged to someone else." He said, "We never asked for that much." I walked to my desk. I picked up the red folder. I handed it to him. The weight of it surprised him. He almost dropped it. I said, "Open it." He opened it. He stared at the spreadsheet on top. His face went pale. He flipped through the pages, the receipts, the transfers, the confirmations, the tax returns showing my real income. He kept flipping page after page of evidence of documentation of proof. His hands started shaking. He looked up at me. "You make this much?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Why did you never tell us?" I said, "Because you never asked. You never once asked me how I was doing. You never once asked if I could afford it. You just assumed. You just took. And when I finally walked away, you showed up here to tell me I'm selfish. To tell me I'm ungrateful for what? For raising me. That is what parents are supposed to do. That does not entitle you to my income for the rest of my life." He closed the folder. He set it on the table. His hands were shaking. He looked older, suddenly smaller. He said, "So what now? You just walk away? You just leave us to figure this out on our own?" I said, "I already did." He shook his head. "You cannot do this. Jeremy's mortgage is due. Your mother's club membership is up for renewal. The insurance policies lapse next week. We need you. The bank is threatening foreclosure." I said, "That sounds like a Jeremy problem. A mom problem, a you problem, not a Charles problem." "Not anymore." His jaw tightened, his fist clenched. He said, "You are going to regret this. You are going to regret throwing away your family. One day you will need us and we will not be there." I said, "No, I am going to regret waiting this long. And I have never needed you. You have needed me. That is the difference." He turned. He walked to the door. His steps were heavy. Before he left, he stopped. He looked back at me one last time. His eyes were wet. He said, "You are not the son I raised." I said, "Good. Because the son you raised does not exist anymore. He never did. He was just a convenient fiction you created to make yourselves feel better about taking." He left. The door closed. I stood there in the silence. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt free. I felt light. I felt like I could finally breathe without the weight of their expectations crushing my chest. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. By the end of the week, the group chat exploded. My mother sent 37 messages in one day. Texts ranging from angry to pleading to manipulative. Jeremy called 16 times. Anna sent a long email asking if I was okay and if this was really permanent. She said she understood. She said she was sorry. She said she wished she had noticed sooner. She said she would pay me back somehow. I did not respond, not to any of them. I muted the group chat. I blocked Jeremy's number. I filtered my mother's emails to a folder I never checked. I needed space. I needed silence. I needed to rebuild without their voices in my head, without their guilt, without their demands. Their utilities got shut off after 2 weeks. Jeremy's car insurance lapsed and he got pulled over 3 days later. The ticket was expensive. The reinstatement fee was worse. The bank sent a foreclosure warning to my parents after 2 missed mortgage payments. My mother tried to call the bank. They told her the account was her responsibility. She had no answer for them. The country club revoked my mother's membership for non-payment. She tried to appeal. She explained it was a mistake. They refused. The humiliation was public. Her friends asked questions she could not answer. Questions like, "I thought Charles was handling that." She had no response. She stopped going to her usual coffee shop. She stopped posting on social media. Jeremy tried to refinance. The bank denied him. His credit score had dropped 40 points after missed payments hit his report. His wife started working extra shifts. They had to sell the second car. They downsized their lifestyle. They stopped posting vacation photos. The posts are stopped entirely. Their social media went quiet. My parents tried to take out a loan. They were denied. Their debt-to-income ratio was too high. They had been living beyond their means for years, propped up by my money. Without it, the illusion collapsed. The house of cards fell. They started selling things. Furniture, jewelry, my mother's tennis racket collection that she had bragged about for years. My father called one last time 2 months later. He left a voicemail. His voice was different. Quiet, broken. He said they were sorry. He said they did not realize. He said they wanted to fix this. He said they needed me. He said they understood now. His voice cracked at the end. I almost felt bad. Almost. I listened to the voicemail. Then I deleted it. I did not call back. I did not offer help. I did not offer forgiveness. I just moved forward, one foot in front of the other, building a life that was mine. 3 months later, I moved. I found a new place across town. Bright, quiet, mine. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city skyline. I bought furniture I liked. Real furniture, not the cheap stuff I had been living with. I hung art on the walls, art I actually enjoyed looking at. I made it a home, not just a place to sleep. Between funding other people's lives, I changed my phone number. I updated my address with the bank. I set my social media to private. I cut every tie that connected me to them. I built walls they could not climb. I created distance they could not cross. I protected myself in ways I never had before. Anna reached out through a mutual friend 6 months later. She said she understood. She said she was sorry. She asked if we could talk. She said she would pay me back. She said she wanted to make things right. She said she had gotten a job and wanted to start sending me money. I thought about it. I considered it for a full week. Then I said, no. Some people deserve second chances, but some people just deserve distance. And my family had used up every chance I ever gave them. They had spent years taking. Now they could spend years learning to stand on their own. Learning what I had known all along. That life is hard. That money does not appear from nowhere. That respect is earned. I built a new life. I took on better clients, projects that excited me instead of just paid well. I traveled to places I had always wanted to see. Iceland, Japan, New Zealand. I bought things I wanted without feeling guilty, without calculating whether I could afford it after covering everyone else's bills. I dated someone who actually asked me about my day. Someone who saw me as a person, not a solution. Someone who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. I was not angry anymore. The rage had burned itself out in those first few weeks. I was not hurt. The pain had faded into something more like relief. I was just done. And that was enough. More than enough. I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. That sometimes love means protecting yourself. That sometimes family is the people who see you, not the people who share your blood. That sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let go of the people who are drowning you. I learned that I was worth more than they ever gave me credit for. That my value was not measured in dollars. That I deserved respect. That I deserved to be seen. And I learned that the only approval I ever needed was my own. On the 1-year anniversary of that dinner, I took myself out to the same Italian restaurant. I sat alone at a table by the window. I ordered the same pasta I had been eating when my father pointed his fork at me, and I smiled. Because this time, when I left, I was going home to a life I had built. A life that was mine. A life where I was free.